She doesn't crave the man who worships her. She craves the man who doesn't need to. The one whose silence says more than your paragraphs ever could. The one who could walk away at any moment and still sleep in peace. Because the truth is, attraction isn't built on chasing. It's built on presence, on power, on peace. The moment you stop fighting to be seen is the moment the world can't take its eyes off you. You wake up with her on your mind. Every message you send is crafted to please. Every choice you make bends just enough to keep her close. You cancel plans, ignore your purpose, and call it love. But it's not love, it's fear wearing a disguise. Fear of losing her. Fear of not being enough. And every time you trade your peace for her attention, you chip away at your own worth. What you don't realize is that she feels it. The desperation behind every good morning text, the approval seeking behind every compliment. And instead of pulling her closer, it pushes her away. Not because she's cruel, but because energy doesn't lie. The moment you abandon yourself to keep her, she starts losing interest. She doesn't want a man who follows. She wants a man who stands. A man who has edges, standards, and silence that commands respect. Because when you stop bending, when you stop begging, when you start valuing your own time, something changes. She feels it, the shift, the calm, the power, and suddenly, she's drawn to you again, not because you chased her, but because you finally chose yourself. Being too nice sounds harmless, even noble. You tell yourself that kindness wins hearts, that patience proves love, that selflessness will eventually be appreciated. But what no one tells you is that unchecked kindness turns into self-erasure. You begin to shrink, quietly, piece by piece. You apologize for things you didn't do. You smile when you want to speak. You agree when your soul screams no. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop being a man with direction. You become a man waiting for permission. She notices it long before you do. The edge that once drew her and begins to dull. You're no longer the grounded, mysterious presence she was attracted to. You're predictable, always available, always accommodating. And instead of feeling safe in your warmth, she starts to suffocate in your constant yes. Because no one, especially a woman, can trust a man who doesn't trust himself. She tests you, not to break you, but to see if you'll hold your ground. When you fold, you confirm her fear that you can be molded, bent, and reshaped at her will. And no woman can respect a man she can control. Respect doesn't come from compliance. It comes from conviction. You think love means never saying no. But saying no is what defines your worth. It's what separates men who lead from men who follow. Every time you set a boundary, you remind her, and yourself, that your time, energy, and presence are earned, not given away freely. And that's where real attraction begins. Not when you chase her, not when you please her, but when you show her that you'll never abandon yourself for her approval. Because the moment you stop being afraid of losing her is the moment she realizes she could lose you. At some point, every man reaches a breaking moment. The moment when you look in the mirror and realize you've been performing. Smiling when you're empty. Chasing validation from someone who barely sees your effort. You start to ask yourself, when did I stop being me? That's the moment everything changes, because awareness is the first sign of awakening. You begin to pull your energy back. You stop replying instantly. You stop rearranging your world to fit into hers. You stop needing to be understood. And instead of reacting to her silence, you start enjoying your own. That quiet, the one that once felt like punishment, starts to feel like freedom. You begin to notice things you ignored. Your goals, your peace, your power. The man you buried under all that people-pleasing begins to breathe again. And ironically, that's when she notices. Not your distance, but your calm. Not your absence, but your control. Because women can sense when a man is no longer begging for attention. He becomes magnetic. His silence becomes louder than words. His energy speaks before he does. You stop fighting for her to stay because you finally understand if someone needs convincing, they were never meant to stay. You don't chase love anymore. You attract it through stillness, purpose, and certainty. That's the paradox of power. When you no longer need it, you have it. When you stop proving your worth, it starts to show naturally. And when you walk away from what doesn't value you, the world begins to treat you like a man who knows his own value. There comes a time when you finally understand that love isn't about possession. It's about presence. You stop trying to hold on to people who clearly want to drift away. You stop chasing the ones who keep testing how far they can push before you break. Because the truth is, no one respects what's always available. You start to learn the quiet art of letting go. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You begin to realize that walking away doesn't always mean you stop caring. It means you finally started caring about yourself. You see, there's a strange power in not reacting, in not explaining, in not fighting to be understood. The man who can stay calm while everything falls apart is the man who controls his world. She might text you less. She might pull away. She might even test your patience, waiting to see if you'll fold again. But this time you don't. You don't chase. You don't beg. You simply let silence do the talking. And that silence speaks louder than any message you could send. It says, I'm no longer a man who needs you to feel whole. You start pouring your energy into yourself, the gym, your craft, your purpose. You wake up with a mission that doesn't revolve around her replies. You start to look different, walk different, speak with weight. Because when a man reconnects with his purpose, everything about him changes. His aura shifts. His confidence becomes quiet but undeniable. And that's when life begins to reward you. The opportunities that once slipped through your fingers begin to return. The peace you were chasing through others finally starts to live inside you. You stop waiting for someone to validate your worth because you've built it from within. Then, without trying, people start to notice. She notices. The same woman who once took your energy for granted starts to feel the difference. You're no longer the man she could manipulate with affection. You're the man she respects in silence. When you finally reclaim your peace, something inside you shifts forever. You stop needing closure from people who never gave you honesty. You stop explaining your worth to those who never intended to understand it. You stop chasing, fixing, and proving. Instead, you start living grounded, still, and free. You realize the love you were begging for was never supposed to come from someone else. It was supposed to come from you, from the way you show up for yourself when no one's watching, from the way you choose discipline over distraction, from the way you protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You no longer want to be chosen. You want to build. You want peace that doesn't depend on someone else's mood. You want a relationship where you're not afraid to lose the other person because you've already found yourself. That's maturity, when peace becomes more attractive than chaos. She might come back. She might not. But it doesn't matter anymore, because your happiness no longer lives in her hands. It lives in your actions, your habits, your purpose. You stop running after love and start radiating it. You stop being the man who needed attention and become the man who commands respect. And that's when you understand the truth every strong man eventually learns. You never lose anyone who's meant for you. You only lose the version of yourself that begged to be loved. Zustand. Let the past go. Let people misunderstand you. Let silence answer what words never could. Because when you master the art of walking away, you don't lose power. You become it. And when a man becomes power itself, calm, grounded, unshakable, the world doesn't ignore him. It follows him.